All right, guys, welcome to today's episode, How to End Resentment in Your Marriage. So if you've been listening for a while, I don't have my usual introduction on today. I'm kind of thinking through, what I'm really doing here, how I'm going to help men and marriages across the world. So stay tuned. New intro coming soon. But wanted to start with a featured review. This is by Cold Nosed. That's a cool name. Very good. Title was Invaluable. I've been listening to Dr. Mike for nearly a year now. He has helped change my focus from things I can't change to the things I can. I'm a better man today from listening and employing his principles. Cold nosed, I love it. Love hearing this kind of review, that this is helpful, that you guys are getting results. Love to hear it. We're up to 40 reviews now. Goal is to get to 100. So there's, thousands of people listening. So we're looking for, what is that? Like 10%, 5% of people to jump in there, put a review in. If you can write a review, that's even better because people can go through, they can look at it and see that, people are enjoying it and getting results from listening. So, take the time, do that, be one of those 10% that takes action on that. All right. So what is resentment? It's the dictionary definition is bitter indignation at being treated unfairly. So I didn't know what indignation meant. So indignation means anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. So the bottom line is you feel like you've been treated unfairly. Something's not fair. Your spouse has it better than you in some way. Okay. You're losing and they're winning. Okay. This is what creates the feeling of resentment. So you're envious of them because of that, right? This isn't fair. You have it better than I have. I'm sacrificing, you're not, right? I'm doing more than you. Okay, that's what causes resentment. So what it boils down to, if you're feeling resentful, one of a few things is happening. Either you're doing things that you really don't want to do, okay? You are cleaning when you don't want to. You are going to events you don't want to. You're spending time with family members that you don't want to, okay? Your wife's family members, your husband's family members. Or you're denying yourself things that you actually want to do, okay? So, your wife's out with her friends, but you're not going out with your friends. Your wife's spending money on stuff she wants, you're not spending money on what you want, okay? So you're denying yourself those things. So a lot of times these are done in the name of sacrifice. Like, well, I can go without so that my wife gets what she wants or my husband gets what he wants, right? So I'm going to give you a bunch of examples. So for money, right? Maybe you're saving more money than you actually want. You want to spend some more, okay? Or maybe you're spending more than you want, or your wife's spending, or your husband's spending more than you think is appropriate, okay? So with sex, maybe you're having sex even when you don't feel like it, okay? That's doing something you don't want to do. Or you're acting like you don't really want it or it's not that important when really you do. So you're denying yourself that, you're denying that you actually want that. With in-laws, okay, maybe you're spending time with them even when you don't feel like it, okay? Or maybe you're not spending time with them when you really want to. Like you're wanting to spend time with your family, but your wife or your husband doesn't want to, right? So because of your spouse, you're not spending time with them even when you want to. So again, you're feeling like you're losing, your wife's winning. My wife's kind of keeping me from what I want to do here, and that's not fair. Or she's making me do something I don't want to do. Okay, with parenting, maybe you're disciplining in ways that you don't really feel comfortable with, sort of to make your wife happy. Or maybe you're not disciplining in ways you feel like are appropriate because your wife doesn't want you to, or your husband doesn't want you to. Okay, with religion, maybe you're doing religious practices that you don't really feel comfortable with, just to kind of make your spouse happy. Or maybe you're not doing religious practices that you really want to do because it might frustrate your spouse, or they might not really like it. I was working with a lady who, she wanted to go to a different church, but she wouldn't do it because her husband didn't really want to. Okay. And so she was feeling resentful. She was feeling upset. She wanted to study the Bible more, but, he didn't. And so she was kind of stuck in this thing. With housework, you're doing chores that you don't want to do, or you're letting things go that you actually want done. Okay. All these things lead to resentment, right? Again, you're either doing something you don't really want to do, or you're denying yourself from doing something that you want to do. Okay. Or with time, you're spending time doing things you don't really feel like doing, or you're not doing the things that you want to do. So, for example, spending time with friends, playing sports, getting engaged in hobbies, right? You are, you're not doing those things. You're denying yourself those things to try to, make your spouse happy, be home more, right? And so you're shutting down those parts of you that you really want to do. Okay. Or, you're going to knitting club because your wife wants you there, even though you hate that. Okay. So this is what causes resentment. So why do we do this? It seems kind of silly. Why would we do stuff we don't want to do? Or why would we deny ourselves from doing the things that we want to do? Well, a lot of times we're doing it because we're trying to manage our spouse's emotions. Okay. So, for example, if you don't really like the way your wife is spending money, okay, it might hurt her feelings if you bring that up. And so you just don't bring it up, right? You just don't say anything about it. But, you kind of keep the peace. You don't rock the boat. Okay. And I'm working with guys. I call this deciding to conceal or reveal, right? You're unhappy, but you're concealing that because you think you're trying to protect your feelings. But what really happens is you're resentful, right? You're getting angry because it's not fair. Okay, it's not fair. You're making the money and she's spending it in an irresponsible way or in a way that you don't feel good about. Okay. So you're sitting there boiling up and she doesn't even know, right? Because you're not bringing anything up. You're trying to spare her feelings. In the meantime, you are resentful because you're letting something happen that you don't want to happen. Okay. So another one, you want to spend more time with your friends or on a hobby, let's say, but you're worried your spouse is going to feel abandoned if you do that. And so you don't do it. You get invited to go out with friends and you don't go. You get invited to a weekend away with friends and you don't go because you feel like your spouse is going to be abandoned. But, you know, so you don't do it, but you're resentful and you're angry because it's not fair, right? It's not fair. Like, I want to do this. My wife's keeping me from doing what I want to do. She's, in my way. She's an obstacle, right? Or maybe it's like, oh, she spends time with her friends, but I don't spend time with mine. That's not fair. Okay. So again, resentment comes from feeling like things are not fair, like you're losing and your wife's winning, or at the very least that you're losing, right? Maybe your wife's not winning either, but you feel like you're losing. So another reason that we can get resentful, right, is because we don't actually take responsibility or own our desires. So, if you want to have sex more often, for example, and you bring that up to your wife, right? You say, hey, like the amount we're having sex, it's not a win for me. I'm not really okay with that. What you have to risk is that she'll say, well, too bad, right? I don't want to have sex more often. And that's scary. Okay. It's scary that you might get rejected, that you might say, hey, I want to divide things up more equally around the house. And your husband might just say, well, I don't. Okay? So that's scary, right? It's sometimes it's easier just to not bring it up than to risk that rejection, right? To risk them saying no. Okay. So that's another reason why we can get resentful and feel trapped, right? Well, I can bring it up, but he might just say no. Okay. So that's another reason why we can get resentful. And then the last way that we can get resentful is by misapplying the golden rule. So the golden rule being, do unto others as you would have others do to you. So we do nice things for our wife, right? But we do things for her because we want them back, right? We want them to do that. We want her to do those same things for us. So we cook or we clean or we write notes or we do acts of service or we give physical touch. Think like the love languages, right? We plan a date, right? We do all these nice things, but it's kind of like, okay, like I gave you all this, now it's my turn, right? Now you need to give that back to me. Okay. So we don't ask her, right? We don't say, hey, I'm doing all this for you. Can you do this for me? We don't do that. What we do instead is we just sort of give and give and give. And, we expect that some of that's going to come back to us. And part of this comes from like a Christian upbringing. So, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I think it's common teaching in a lot of Christian churches. Hey, like if you serve, if you go out and, do nice things for other people, they're going to do the same back for you. And a lot of times it works out like that. But what happens in a marriage is, you start doing these nice things all the time, and you are expecting them back, but your spouse doesn't know. And so what your spouse thinks is you just kind of like doing that, or, it's fine with you to do that, even though it's not fine, right? Even though you're doing something that maybe you don't really want to do, or, again, what I call being a mosquito, right? You're doing these nice things, but with the expectation that something's coming back. And so you start getting resentful when, you're buzzing around like that mosquito doing nice things, expecting something back. And, it doesn't come back. You get mad, you get resentful. You feel like it's not fair. Okay. We're doing so much for you, but you're not doing anything for us. Look at all this stuff I do for you. I go to work, I clean, I take care of the kids. You don't do anything back for me. Okay. So that's resentful. It seems unfair. So again, we're losing and she's winning. That's what it feels like. I'm doing so much for you. You're not doing anything for me. I'm losing, you're winning. All right. So those are the problems. So now let's get to the solution. So what do you do instead of getting resentful? Okay. So again, you don't want to feel like you're losing in the marriage. If you do, you're going to get resentful. You just are. Okay. What we want is for marriage to be fun. Okay. We want it to feel like a game that we're both winning. If you're not both winning, it can't last long term. So step one, you got to decide what a win is for you. Okay. So what do I really want? What do I like? What do I want to have happen? What do I not like? What do I want to stop doing? Right. Because again, resentment is caused by either doing stuff you don't want to do or denying yourself from doing things that you want to do. So, what is a win for you? With money, with sex, with in laws, with parenting, with religion, with housework, with time? What is it that you actually want? A lot of times it takes some thinking, to really decide, okay, like what is a win? What would I really like? Okay. So, what do you actually want? Sometimes you haven't really even thought about that. You just know it's not fair, it doesn't seem fair, but you haven't taken the time to sit down and decide, okay, well, it's not fair, but what would be fair? Like, what would I like? What would feel like a win for me? What do I want to do with my time? What do I want to stop doing? Okay. Look at your life. And again, your clue is resentment. Yeah, I feel resentful that I'm making dinners all the time. Okay. So that means you're doing something you don't want to do, which is making dinners all the time. So what would be a win? Maybe you'd actually like making dinners and you'd like to make it a few days a week, but you just feel like it's not fair for you to make it every day. And so the win might be, okay, like what I'd like is I'd like to cook dinners a few days a week, and I'd like for you to cook dinners a few days a week. Okay. And then, right, what do you not like or not want to do? Hey, look, it's not really a win for me to go to that knitting club anymore. I really don't like it. I don't like knitting. I don't like sitting there with 10 other women and I'm the only guy there. Okay. So again, yeah, we talked about that equal division of housework, like cooking. I'd like to cook a few days and for you to cook a few days. That's what would be a win for me. So that's step one, figuring out what's a win for you. Step two is understanding what a win is for your wife, or if you're a woman listening, for your husband. So the way you might approach this is something like this. Hey, honey, I'd like to talk with you about how we divide up the housework. We'll just use cooking for the example. I'd like to talk about how we divide up cooking. Okay. Here's what I think would work. I'd like to cook Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you could cook Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the kids can cook Sunday, something like that. If you have kids, it's good to get them involved in this stuff. But hey, for you, what do you think would work? She might very well say, hey, that sounds good. Yeah, I like that. And then you're done, and it's a miracle. Okay. Because now you are not resentful, because now it's a win, right, for both of you. And guys, a lot of times this is what happens when you actually define it and you're like, I don't think this is fair. I think this would be more fair. And you come and present that to your spouse. They're like, yeah, that's true. You have been doing more than your share. I'm happy to step in and do mine. People find this amazing when they start advocating for themselves that, you know, life's just so much better. You don't have to hate your life and when you're married. Okay, you really don't. You want it to feel like a win. And so when you sit down and define that and you say, hey, look, it really, I don't feel like this is fair the way things are going right now. Here's how I'd like it instead. A lot of times, guys, when you just own that, step up to it, your spouse is gonna be like, yeah, you're right. That's fine. And let's do it. Okay. And now look, resentment's gone. You solved it. Okay. So step 3 is getting to an agreement that's a win for both of you. Okay. So, you may come to your spouse and you may say, hey, I would like to divide up the chores this way, or the cooking this way. And then your spouse might say, well, that doesn't really work for me. I'd rather do it this way. And then you guys work together until you find something that really does work for both of you. Okay. So when you both feel like you're winning, voila, resentment's gone because things are fair and they feel like a win. So a few tips on this. Okay. Again, you might be surprised at just how willing your wife is to have you start doing things you want to do. A lot of times we just have this wrong idea that, we have to shut down everything that we like. Okay. We have to not spend time with friends. We have to not spend time on our hobbies. We have to spend every minute spare that we have with our wife and kids, or we're not doing a good job, or with our husband, right? Or we're not doing a good job. But a lot of times when we're just like, hey, I would like to go play tennis with a friend, your wife might just be like, yeah, that sounds great. And you're amazed, but a lot of times that's what happens. One of my buddies, we play tennis together, and he told his wife, he said, yeah, and he kind of was hesitant. And a lot of times it's like that at first when you're starting to advocate for yourself a little bit and ask for what you want in your marriage. um, you say something like, hey, I'd like to, I think he asked it something like, hey, would it be okay if I, went and played tennis with a friend? And, kind of expecting his wife to basically say no. But she said, yeah, that's great. No hesitation, because most of the time, our spouse understands, yeah, it is good for you to do stuff that you like. It is good for you to enjoy your life. Okay? You don't have to hate your life. That's not a requirement to be married. So, you want to still be enjoying stuff outside. So again, you just might be surprised at how well it goes when you just stand up for yourself and ask for what you want. Okay. The other thing too is you don't have to do everything together all the time, right? Alone time, it's important. So, this sense that to have a good marriage, we've got to love spending every second together and, enjoy all the same things and like all the same movies and all the same music and all the same food. It's just not true, right? You're two different people. And so some stuff you're going to like to do just by yourself, and that's fine. And so will your wife, and that's fine. When you guys build yourselves up separately, then you can come together and it's even better. I was just giving this example to a friend the other day. It's like water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, right? And when they come together, they make water, which is something even more amazing than they are separately. But they still exist separately. Like hydrogen doesn't disappear and oxygen doesn't disappear. They're still there. They're still separate, but they come together and create something even better. Okay. Or another way to think about it is like a smoothie. So if like you're a berry and your wife's a banana, like if you throw that in a smoothie and mix it, then they don't exist separately anymore. And a smoothie is good, but like sometimes you get tired of a smoothie, right? So if you're a berry and you're a banana, sometimes that berry might go do something else, right? Or that banana might go do something else, and then you can come together and make like a salad sometimes. Okay. So separate time, it's important. Like you are two separate people and you are a couple. Okay, don't forget that there's 3 elements to it: you, your wife, and the marriage. You and your wife don't disappear when you get married. Also remember, just because you want your spouse to do something doesn't mean they have to do it. So this is another place people get kind of mixed up about this. So you might come to your wife and say, like, hey, I want you to have sex with me every day. That's what I want. And for your wife, that's just not a win. And then you're like, well, fine, you don't want anything I want. No, like you want a win for both of you, not like if you've been in lose win, like you feel like you've been losing a lot in your marriage, you don't want to just flip it to where it's now win lose. Like now it's my turn, right? I'm going to get what I want and you have to suffer. That's not what you want. You want something where you're both winning. Okay. And it takes some time and it takes some, maturity to get to that. But guys, this is how you get rid of resentment. You start doing things that you want, you stop doing things that you don't want, you find wins for both of you. Okay. And that's not to say you're never going to do anything you don't like, right? I mean, part of life, sometimes we do stuff that we don't particularly enjoy. It's just that you don't want to feel like you're always doing that and you're never doing stuff you want and you just totally feel like you're losing. Like in some ways, maybe both of you hate taking out the trash, let's say. And so a lose win would be you taking out the trash all the time and your wife never taking it out, right? That's a lose. A win, and then a win lose would be like she takes it out all the time. So then a win win is, okay, let's split it up, or let's have the kids do it because, right? The kids are there, they can help us, right? So, that's a win win. Or we hire somebody to do it, right? Okay. So as a review, resentment in marriage, it comes from feeling like things are unfair. Okay. Like you're losing and your wife's winning, or at the very least that you're losing. Okay. It comes from you doing things that you don't want to do, or you're denying yourself things that you want to do in the name of trying to make your spouse happy or, have a good marriage or sacrifice or that kind of thing. So here's what you need to do. Identify what you want and don't want. Okay. Be clear on what's a win for you. And then understand what's a win for your spouse. And then find a win for both of you. That's really it. I mean, those are the principles. Okay. Now resentment, it's gone. It's not there because you both feel like you're winning. Again, resentment comes from feeling like you're losing. If you feel like you're winning, it is not there. That's how you get rid of it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening today. So, guys, jump in and write a review. We're up to 40 reviews now, which is great. So let's get to 100 on the podcast. I'm just looking at iTunes. So if you're reviewing it somewhere else, great. The one I look at is the one on iTunes. I guess now it's called Apple Podcasts. So write a review. That's what helps get more people and more help with marriages. Share the episode with a friend, and then head over to MikeFrazierMD.com. And, if you want to really take your learning to the next level and take your results to the next level, we can work together and help you do that. All right. Stay strong. We'll see you next episode.